So feel it in. All the love. All the love that we share, all the love that we hold for one another, and how each of us matters. Each of us matters to each other in this community by our mere presence. Each of us matters. Just feel that. Know that. Be that. Ernest Holmes says it really well. He says that as we come to open our thought to a greater acknowledgement and acceptance of the divinity that resides within us, we find ourselves on the pathway to achieving the purpose for which we were created. And that is to express the nature of the divine. To express the nature of the divine, the source of our being. There is this valley. There's this valley in a mountain range that connects New Mexico to Colorado. And a story is shared with two men walking in this valley. And it happens to be in this valley there are thousands of sage bushes. And so as far as the eye can see, there are these bushes in front. And as we were to look at them ourselves, we would think, these are all individual sage bushes in this valley. And yet what is happening underneath the earth is that every one of the roots become connected to the other. And eventually over time, it's all one set of roots. Now, if you take that individualized expression of that sage bush in and of itself, if there was one alone sage bush in that valley, it would influence that which is surrounding it, the soil and everything. But because these bushes are connected underneath the ground, the presence becomes a major tipping point. And it changes everything about the surroundings. It changes the pH in the soil. It actually changes the oxygen levels in that valley. If we were to walk through it, there would be more air, more pure oxygen. And that's the collectiveness. And so I would imagine that's what is felt by one is felt by all in that community of sage bushes. And I know that this is a beautiful example of not only how our presence matter and who we came here to be matters so much that we may not ever know the lives that are touched, impacted, and grown by how we choose to show up and be. In 2010, I had something come through me that made me have a greater awareness of why I was here, and that was I knew very clearly that my purpose was to be love, that I am to be that divine presence, that benevolent presence, and to be that as often and everywhere that I can. And I actually made the little white wristbands for the mere purpose of reminding me. And I made a few hundred and gave them away, and as it turns out, I've made tens of thousands and given them away. And it was a reminder, and so I've been doing that practice of to be that benevolent presence, so that my presence and how I show up matters for now 5 years. I know that it's not only majorly shifted who I am as a person. I actually enjoy being around myself a lot more. It's a good thing since I can't seem to get away from me. And I've had people articulate that have seen me in this period of, the 3 or 4 years that I began practicing this. But something really profound happened to me on October 17th, 2013 that changed everything, that I got to really get what it means to be love, to be that benevolent presence, and the power of unconditional love, and how the power of our presence can shift everything. I was living in the Bay Area. I was on a BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, so one of the I don't know, trains. Thank you. It helps to have help. Yes. And so anyway, I went to the city and I came back. It was just like any other time that I'd ridden it. But on this particular day, as I was leaving the train and I was about to go through the turnstile, whatever it is said, I was just walking and said, stop. And I literally stopped my gait. And I just stood there, and I did not know why. And when I stood there, I just knew that I was to stand there and be love. And then, in like 10 to 20 seconds, an altercation to the left of me broke out between 3 women. 2 women were very angry, starting to get very angry at the BART station worker that worked there. And these 2 women, whatever it was, they just started sharing their agitation at this woman. And I stood there and did not move, and I was being the presence. That was it. By all other eyes walking past me, people just going right through me, around me, didn't matter. I was just standing there not moving. And one of the women that was a little bit upset did drop away, and it left 2 women. And this particular woman got exceptionally angry. There was the human side of me somewhere back inside of me that said, I really hope those security guards come soon. I didn't know if, weapons were going to be drawn or whatever. I stood there to be love. What happened is I was aware that this woman backed the BART worker into her ticket office, and it was dark, and it was boxed in, and she could not get out. She was trapped. And it escalated even more. Again, I just stood there and was being the presence. And then just like that, it all changed and happened. And I heard the BART station worker say, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. They started laughing, they started hugging, and they came out of that box like they were best of friends. Now, while this was going on, a lot of people weren't getting waited on because the BART station employee was quite busy with a woman. And there was a line. And so there were people getting agitated about that, as you might imagine. But before she went to the line of people, it was as if she had her back to me. And it was as if she felt the presence. And she turned. And she said, can I help you, ma'am? And I said, no. I just came here to be love. And she just looked right through me and said, thank you. And we went on. That changed everything for me because I really got how we can be the presence all the time. And the power of that, how we choose to be in the world. There's a woman by the name of Lynn Taggart, and she does these intentional experiments. So when you look at the collective, this community, this collective of this community, what we can do with our intentions and how we choose to be and show up collectively as a group. So think about that when I share this. So she wanted to do an experiment on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. So in 2011, she decided, reached out to people, and she said, you know what if we got tens of thousands of people to focus on the intention of peace and to stop the violence due to war on this planet, and especially in certain regions. So tens of thousands of Arabs throughout the Gulf states joined her in this mission along with people in the Western world. And they were particularly focusing on the violence in the two southern provinces of Afghanistan and Helmand. It turned out that people from 75 countries, I found out someone in our community at First Service participated in this. People in 75 countries participated, and they all joined hands and hearts during an 8-day period, mind you, starting on September 11th for 8 days. Let me give you the summary of the impact that this had. Civilian casualties dropped to an average of 37% after their September intention. Attacks with explosive devices dropped 16% compared to attack rate 2 years prior. Mind you, it was just as violent over these past few years. Overall, enemy attacks dropped 12% from October to December compared to the levels in 2010, and the attacks in the Southwest dropped overall by 29% over the year before. But get this, drastically dropped over 790% in September. So overall, in all of Afghanistan, in 2011, the rates were 9% lower. So how we show up on a daily basis makes a difference. It makes a difference individually and collectively. And we are each the tipping point for all of us.
So as we think about setting this in community, as we think about being together in community, it matters not only how we show up, it matters how we act. It's so critical and important to our presence, our being, as Karen has so beautifully shared. And now that beingness actually has to be translated into action. I have moved, not too far from here to a little condo, and so I go to a new Tom Thumb. I have discovered the magical Tom Thumb parking lot. It's great. I love it. Oh my goodness. So not too long ago, I was a little harried. I had an entire cart full of things I was buying to get here for some event, and on top was, of course, the chocolate chip cookies. And so as I was maneuvering, getting out, and going over the speed bumps, wouldn't you know it, chocolate chip cookies slid off right on the floor. I had no more stop my cart to bend down to pick it up than there were 3 people there to help me pick up the cookies, make sure everything was okay. One woman was extremely indignant. She was prepared to march back in there and get me a new set of cookies. I felt so cared for. So a few months later, or a few weeks later, some of you saw this on Facebook, it got really, really icy cold. It got really cold. I was driving there again and came out, and my car looked like it was listing. Well, sure enough, the back tire was flat. I mean flat, not drivable, flat. And so I thought, I'm woman, hear me roar, watch me do this tire. I know how to do this, I can do this. Yes, I can do it. I can do this. Drag everything out, set it all up. I was clearly not doing the little thingy right, but it was moving. It was just going very slowly. So my hero, Ace, that was actually his name, my hero, Ace, he came over, ma'am, would you like me to help you change your flat tire? Oh, my hero. Of course, he knew exactly how to put that little jack thing together, and he whipped that thing, and he had it raise it up and put that little donut on. He had to stand on the thing to hope, to make the lug nuts come off. Oh, ma'am, you would never have been able to do this. I would so have. But what he did in 12 minutes probably would have taken me 45. That's great. Oh, I felt so loved. It was great. Not too long ago, I was in the parking lot again. I was kind of hurried, and needing to get things. I think I was coming here, needing to get things here. I was tossing all my bags in the back of the car, and I was looking around. I got to put this cart away. And sure enough, don't you know, a young man came up. And, do you need me to take your cart for you? Yes. He said, oh, I don't really need it. I'll just put it away for you. My hero. It's the magical Tom Thumb parking lot. Showing up as love, right? Not just an idea from the meditation cushion. Not just when we're here on Sunday mornings and we feel it so profoundly. But actually behaving from that place. Do you see? And it shifted the experience that I was having because somebody chose to act that way. Tipped my life in that moment into a better direction. Participated in creating the magical Tum Thumb parking lot. The consciousness that's there. Do you see? Each one of us, we make such an extraordinary difference. Now, we can bring another consciousness to the forefront, can't we? And we can behave out of our old tapes, our old patterns. We can react the way that we've always reacted. We can be what we've always been. And then there's that disconnect. We've been talking with Joe Dispenza in our book of the month, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, how important that internal coherence is. Well, it's just as important that our coherence is inner and outer. We can't get up from our meditation cushion, go to the freeway, and then curse everybody out. We can't. We can't do our prayer work and say that we're one with God and then go to the grocery store and get all upset because there are people ahead of us in the line fumbling for their change. Right? So our task, our project is to become so coherent that the outer reflects what we know to be true on the inside. And then my experience is we become the tipping point. We, one person. And when one people and one person and one person and one person gets together in a community, then you have the possibility of change. We've seen this in our civil rights movement. We've seen this in any of the nonviolent movements that we've seen across the globe. How when a group of people decide to come together, they make a difference. One of the challenges I think we face in our culture today, in the United States in particular, is we face a certain kind of apathy when it comes to our political systems and our ability and our willingness to get involved. Yeah, really, what does it matter? What's one person going to do? And yet one person plus one person plus one person plus one person acting in alignment with the truth of our being makes a difference. It's the only thing that ever has, Margaret Mead reminds us. It's the only thing that ever has. And we've seen it in our history as we've seen discrimination change and as these nonviolent movements have swept and made a huge difference. And now we're seeing new discrimination laws being put into place. In Indiana, in Arkansas, we see them in India. We're seeing new discrimination laws taking place. And the question in this and in every other case, whether it's climate change, whether it's building a business that is sustainable, whether it is making a business that cares as much about the people as it does about the bottom line, all of these things, do you see? Whether it's how we show up as an educator, whether it's how we show up in our families, we are the ones who make the difference. And when we join together, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, unlike mathematics, in consciousness, it's exponential. We actually raise the vibrational rate, not only of ourselves, but of the community, of the events and experiences that we're a part of. We raise the vibrational rate in consciousness collectively. So Joe Dispenza says this: can you be the same person in your external environment that you were being in your internal one? Can you be greater than your present environment? Not react, not respond out of those old behaviors and tapes and those old ways of being. Are you able to cease your routine reactions? This is the test for the coherence in our lives. This is the way in which we know that we are becoming the tipping point. We're becoming the tipping point in our own personal life experience, and we are a place where that tipping point takes place. And we join together in community so that we can further our ability to be this and do this and so that we as a community can be that here in Dallas, here in Texas, here in the United States, here on the planet, as part of the whole. What you do makes a difference. How you show up matters. When we act from the outside in coherence to how we feel on the inside, we become a change agent. So I want to close with this reading, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, as we complete with this just really extraordinary book that we've been reading. If you haven't gotten it, oh man, I highly recommend that you get this. This is The Promise. This is where Joe Dispenza closes out. This is the beginning of true unconditional love. Feeling a sense of love and awe for life without needing anything from outside of us, this is freeing. It is no longer being attached to external elements. It is a feeling that is so coherent that to judge another or to emotionally react to life is compromising the self we've become. This is when the greater consciousness that we are all connected to, begins to move out of us, and we begin to express this through us. We move from human toward divine. We become more like it. We become more loving, more mindful, more powerful. We become more generous, more intentional, more kind. We become whole and healthy. Something else amazing begins to occur as well. When you feel elevated and joyful, you will feel so wonderful that you will want to share that feeling of what you are experiencing with someone else. And how do you share that great feeling? Well, you give. You think, I feel so superb and uplifted that I want you to feel that way. I want you to feel the way that I feel. So here's a gift. Here's a gift of my action, my giving, my life, my doing. Here is a gift. And you will begin to give so that others can feel the gift that you're expressing from within. And then you are selfless. Imagine a world like that. And so we come together in community to not just imagine that world, but to be it. To hold each other's hands, to live it. To remember what it's supposed to be like. To know we don't walk alone. To not leave anybody out. And do you see that we become the place? We become the place where a difference is made. And you are that. You are that. May you always know it.